Hi friends, good morning. Welcome to Shankaran AI Study Circle. This is Dr. Harinath Reddy, Director of the Institute. Today in this particular video, we will try to discuss about the recommendations of the 15th Finance Commission with respect to defense and internal security. As many of the students are aware, defense of India and protecting the internal security of India is very important sovereign function, and as a result the 15th Finance Commission has given lot of emphasis with respect to this subject matter, defense and internal security. And if you see annually, out of the total ministries under government of India, it is the Ministry of Defense. It is the Ministry of Defense which has got the highest budgetary allocations every year in the budget. Despite this, there is inability to ensure adequate capital expenditure in the defense sector. So we were not able to make adequate expenditure on the capital front. So much of the defense expenditure it is spent on revenue account for pensions, salaries and other liabilities. And as a result, we are very much dependent on imports with respect to the defense sector, and there are certain disadvantages of this. If there is a growing indigenization of defense industry in India, it has a number of benefits. It gives a stimulus to the Indian economy, and there are a large number of collateral benefits as well. So to ensure that our dependence on imports come down, we need to spend more on capital expenditure so that there is greater indigenization. So in this context, let us initially identify the problems relating to the defense and internal security, and then we will try to discuss what 15th Finance Commission has recommended to address the problems. So as I told you, capital expenditure projections of the Ministry of Defense as well as of the Ministry of Home Affairs for internal security were examined by the Commission. And as I told, if you see the constitutional provisions relating to defense and internal security, Article 51, which is part of Directive Principles of State Policy, it says that the state shall endeavor to promote international peace and security. Article 51 Clause A. Article 51 Clause A of the DPSP says that a state shall endeavor to promote international peace and security. And similarly, in the fundamental duties, Article 51A, Article 51 capital A, it deals with the fundamental duties, especially the fundamental duties specified in Class C and Class D. They say that every citizen has a duty to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India, and to defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so. So this is one article which speaks about the fundamental duties of the citizens with respect to protecting the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. In addition to this, if you take Article 246, which deals with the three lists in the 7th schedule, union list, state list and concurrent list, Article 246 provides, it says that Parliament has the exclusive power to make laws on defense and internal security related matters as enumerated in the union list of the 7th schedule. In addition to this, there is one more important article, Article 355. So this article says, it is the duty of the Union to protect the states from external aggression and internal disturbance, and to ensure that administration in every state is carried on in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. In other words, Article 355, it imposes a duty on the Union government to ensure that administration in every state is carried on in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. So there could be a possible constitutional breakdown in a state because of external aggression or even internal disturbance. So this means the Union government can intervene under Article 355 in situations of external aggression and also internal disturbance. In addition to this, if you take the 7th schedule, the list 2 which deals with a state list, the first two entries, they deal with law and order, public order and police. public order and police, they were the first two entries in the state list. It is a subject in the state list, which means the state governments have the primary responsibility of maintaining law and order, preventing, detecting and investigating crime and prosecuting criminals. So, as public order and police, as they are mentioned in the state list, states have got immediate responsibility and primary responsibility for the maintenance of law and order. In addition to this, in the union list, there is one entry called entry 2A, entry 2 capital A. It says the union government can deploy any armed forces of the union or any other force subject to the control of the union in aid of civil power, which means under this entry 2A, the union government can deploy its armed forces or even the central paramilitary forces in every state in support of the civilian power in that particular state. So, the union government, in other words, it supplements the efforts of the states in the maintenance of law and order. So, though the primary responsibility is with the state governments can ask support from the center, and the union government can supplement and support the efforts of the state governments when it comes to the maintenance of law and order in the state. Then in other words, the union government also supports the states in several ways. It provides financial assistance to the states for modernization of the police forces at the state level. In addition to this, intelligence inputs are regularly shared by the central security and the intelligence agencies with the law enforcement agencies of the states to prevent crime and law and order related incidents. For example, if there is any terror attack, if there is going to happen any terror attack in any part of a particular state, the related intelligence information is with the central agencies, and this information is shared with the state law enforcement agencies to deal with the possible attack of terrorists. So, in other words, we can conclude the subject of internal security is the collective responsibility of both the union and state governments. So, defense of India, of course, the responsibility of the union government. Deployment of armed forces or central paramilitary forces to support the state governments is again the power which is given to the union government. But public order and police, they are mentioned in the state list, which means the states have got primary responsibility. But you should understand that the union government has got greater capacity compared to the states when it is related to internal security. The central paramilitary forces are much better trained and equipped to deal with internal security challenges. In addition to this, the financial resources which are available with the central governments are much higher compared to the states. So, in terms of the availability of financial resources, in terms of training, in terms of capacity, it is the center which is much better compared to the states. So, to maintain law and order in the states, to deal with internal security challenges at the state level, it is necessary that the states need support from the center. The states, they are not adequately trained, the state police forces are not adequately trained, and they are not adequately equipped in terms of arms and ammunition to deal with internal security challenges. So, this makes it imperative for the center and the states to cooperate with each other in dealing with internal security challenges in this country. So, that is what is discussed in the report in the beginning. Then subsequently, if you see, as I told in the very beginning, the annual budgetary allocations, if you see, the highest budgetary allocations were made to the Ministry of Defence. And in addition to this, if you see, the total defence expenditure as a percentage of GDP, the total defence expenditure in this country as percentage of GDP, it has declined over a period of time. For example, if you take in 2011-12, in 2011-12, the total defence expenditure as a proportion of GDP, it was 2.5%. 2011-12, it was 2.5%. But by 2018-19, it has come down to 2.1%. So, this is a cause of concern, because the defence expenditure shall not come down, because it will have serious ramifications for the national security of this country. In addition to this, if you see the proportion of total defence expenditure in the total union government expenditure, it has increased from 16.5% to 17.4% during the same period. This is a good sign in the sense, as percentage of GDP, as percentage of national income, the expenditure made on defense, it has come down. But as a proportion of the total union government expenditure, the expenditure made on defense has increased over a period of time. Because in 2011-12, it was 16.54%, and now in 2018-19, 17.4%. So as percentage of the total union government expenditure, the expenditure made on defense has increased over a period of time, and this is a good sign. And here it is also explained that if you see the total government expenditure, the total expenditure made by the union government, as percentage of GDP, it has declined over a period of time. For example, in 2011-12, the expenditure made by the union government as percentage of GDP is 14.9%. Out of the total national income, 14.9% was the expenditure made by the union government. And in 2018-19, it has come down to 12.2%. So though the expenditure made by the union government has reduced over a period of time, the expenditure made on the defense sector has increased over a period of time as percentage of union government expenditure. This is a very good sign. This needs to be continued and further strengthened. But as a percentage of GDP, the defense expenditure has come down between 11-12 and 18-19. This is a cause of concern. In addition to this, if you see the total defense expenditure in this country, much of it is revenue expenditure, because see the increase as well. The increase is largely accounted for. So the actual increase in the defense expenditure is in the revenue account, which doesn't create any asset in the defense sector. So if you see that in 2011-12, it was 12.6%. The defense expenditure, the increase is largely accounted for by defense revenue expenditure, which rose from 12.6% of the union government's revenue. So in the total revenue expenditure of the union government, revenue expenditure on defense sector, it is 12.6% in 11-12. It has increased to 15.1% in 2018-19. And the reasons are, it is because of higher money which is paid in the form of salaries and pensions with the implementation of revised pay scales following the 7th Central Pay Commission. So the disadvantage here is, out of the total allocations to the defense sector, much of this money is being spent on salaries and allowances, and this has increased because of the implementation of the recommendations of the 7th Pay Commission. So not enough financial resources are being made available for capital outlays with respect to the defense sector. This is again a cause of concern, and it needs to be addressed through policy interventions. Then, if you see the defense expenditure, in the share of defense capital expenditure in the total capital expenditure of the union government, in the total capital expenditure of the union government, what is the share of the defense sector? If you see, it was 43.8% in 11-12, that has come down to 32.4% in 18-19. So this is again a cause of concern. So the capital expenditure on defense sector as a proportion of the total capital expenditure made by the union government, it has declined over a period of time. Between 2011-12 and 18 and 19, the defense expenditure, defense capital expenditure in the total capital expenditure of the union government, it has declined from 43.8% to 32.4%. What does this mean? We are not able to make enough capital expenditure on the defense sector as a proportion of the total capital expenditure of the union government. This is again one cause of concern. In addition to this, see the situation of India. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, India was the 4th largest importer of defense goods and services in 2018. So what is the problem if we are dependent too much on the imports? One is, we will be losing valuable foreign exchange, and the defense exports will be expensive, no doubt. In addition to this, if the supplies are not given in time at the time of emergency, this will also compromise the security of the nation, is one more concern. See here, imports of military hardware result in the country losing out on the multiplier effects on the economy as well as on spin-offs in terms of technical and scientific innovations and inventions. So if there is greater indigenization of the defense sector within India, there are a number of advantages to the Indian industry. It will promote innovation and inventions within India. It will give greater stimulus to Indian industry as well, and also diversification of Indian industry. But if we depend more and more on imports, this will not happen, and to that extent that will be a loss to this nation. In addition to this, as I told earlier, dependence on foreign suppliers for military hardware not only entails huge expenditure on imports, but also makes national security vulnerable to vagaries of supply during emergencies. This I have already explained. See the pensions, the burden of pension in this country, defense pension, as a proportion of total defense allocation. So if 100 rupees is the total allocation to the defense sector, 17.6% is the share of pension in 11-12, and that has increased to 28.4% in 2020-21 budget estimates. Defense pension as a proportion of the total defense allocation has risen from 17.6% to 28.4% between 2011-12 and 2021. So this was a big cause of concern. If more and more money is being diverted for pensions and salaries, then the money which is available for capital expenditure will come down, and that will affect the security of this country because we cannot make enough investments in the defense sector. Even as a proportion of GDP, if you see the share of pension expenditure, it increased from 0.4% to 0.6% in the same period. And if you see it as a proportion of the revenue expenditure of the union government, it has increased from 3.3 to 5.1%. So this all speaks about the growing burden of pensions, which takes away much of the resources which are to be diverted for the capital expenditure in the defense sector. In addition to this, if you take the budget for the Ministry of Home Affairs, out of the total budgetary allocations, money given to the Home Ministry, it is 4.8% out of the total budgetary allocations. Union Ministry of Home Affairs was given 4.8% in 2018-19, out of which 81.7% is spent on police, the Central Armed Police Forces, 12.5% is grants given to union territories, and 5.8% is on other miscellaneous items like disaster management, rehabilitation of refugees and migrants, census and cabinet. If you similarly see in 2015-18, out of the total expenditure of 80,000 crores by the Ministry of Home Affairs, 79% was spent on police, that is Central Armed Police Forces and Delhi Police. In 2018-19, it is 82% the money spent on police. But if you come to 2020-21, it has come down to 63% out of the budget allocation. The reason here is the decline in the share of the police in the expenditure of the Ministry of Home Affairs is mainly because the allocation for Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh is now routed through the Ministry of Home Affairs budget in 2021. So following the reorganization of erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir into two union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. So then, as I told, capital expenditure is for procurement of machinery and equipment and motor vehicles, whereas revenue expenditure is on items such as salaries, arms and ammunition and clothing. So the share of revenue expenditure in police grants, progressively increased from 85.7% to about 90.6%. So same is the story even with the police. Earlier we have discussed about defense. Out of the total police grants, the money which is spent on revenue expenditure is growing, which is not good. While the share of the capital expenditure has declined from 14.3% to 9.4%. So these are the problems with respect to the defense sector as well as the sector of internal security. So to address these problems, what are the recommendations made by the 15th Finance Commission? So the 15th Finance Commission said the union government may constitute a non-lapsable fund. Non-lapsable fund means if money in this particular year cannot be spent, it can be spent in the next year. So there will be some flexibility for a better utilization of the funds. So where this needs to be created? In the public account. 15th Finance Commission recommended a non-lapsable fund can be created in the public account of Government of India, known by the name Modernization Fund for Defence and Internal Security. This is the fund which is recommended by 15th Finance Commission. Modernization Fund for Defence and Internal Security. Modernization Fund for Defence and Internal Security. Then, so this money from this fund will be used for modernization of the defense services through capital investment. Similarly, Central Armed Police Forces, State Police Forces will also be modernized through the capital investment. And similarly, part of that fund can be used for the welfare of soldiers and paramilitary personnel. Then, so the money to this fund, the modernization fund, will come from four sources. Transfers from the Consolidated Fund of India through budgetary allocations, it will be going to the fund. In addition to this, when defense public sector enterprises are disinvested, the revenues realized will also be made part of the fund. In addition to this, Defense Ministry has a surplus defense land. So by selling this land, it can generate revenue. Again, this money will be deposited in the modernization fund. In addition to this, if the defense land, if it is given to state government for any reason, the Defense Ministry will be getting revenue from this, and even this money will be deposited in the non-lapsable fund. And if you see, th Finance Commission has recommended that between 2021-26, that is over a period of 5 years, the size of the non-lapsable fund for modernization of the defense and internal security, 15th Finance Commission said it shall be 2,38,354 crores. 2,38,354 crores shall be the total money for modernization of defense and internal security over a period of 5 years between 2021-22 and 25-26. Approximately, it will come down to rupees 51,000 per annum. It will come down to rupees 51,000 per annum. Then, the other recommendations. The amount proposed for capital expenditure towards internal security for 5 years. So the money which I told you earlier, it is for defense sector. So there here the students must remember there are two things here. We were discussing about defense on one hand and internal security on the other hand. So here the 15th Finance Commission says for 5-year period, the capital expenditure which is required for a modernization of, for improving the internal security alone, it is 50,000 crores for 5-year period, That's one important recommendation. And to operate this fund, to maintain this fund, to operate this fund, 15th Finance Commission has recommended for establishing a high-powered committee which should be headed by the Cabinet Secretary. High-powered committee headed by Cabinet Secretary. So the money which is made available for defense and also for internal security, to properly use this money, 15th Finance Commission recommended establishment of a high-powered committee which is headed by Cabinet Secretary. That's one important recommendation. In addition to this, 15th Finance Commission recommended that high-powered committee should allocate 1,000 crores per annum for the welfare of the families of the defense personnel and the Central Armed Police personnel who sacrificed their lives in frontline duties. That's not a so important recommendation. But the Ministry of Defence should also take immediate measures to innovatively bring down the salaries and pension liabilities. I told much of the defence expenditure, it is in the revenue account for salaries and pensions. If this expenditure could not be brought down, enough resources cannot be made available for a capital expenditure in the defence sector. That's very important. So the 15th Finance Commission has recommended Ministry of Defence shall focus on bringing down the expenditure because of pensions and salaries. And this can be done by several ways: increasing the retirement age of the military personnel, transferring the retired personnel to other services like the paramilitary forces, and a resettlement of ex-servicemen through skill development courses. And in addition to this, we have a new pension scheme under which the burden on the government is low. So the 15th Finance Commission says the existing military service personnel can be brought to new pension scheme from the old pension scheme. So these are some of the suggestions made to bring down the burden of the pensions and the salaries. In addition to this, the 15th Finance Commission says the Ministry of Defence shall reduce its dependence on defence imports with a specific roadmap by corresponding enhancement in indigenous production at a faster rate. So if you want to reduce the dependence on defence imports, we need to increase the capital expenditure to the defence sector for greater indigenization. So it says by the end of the award period, that is by 2025-26, the endeavor of the Ministry of Defence should be that not more than 30% of defence capital outlay is through foreign vendor imports. Not more than 30% of defence capital outlay is through foreign vendor imports, which means we need to achieve in indigenization to the extent of 70%, and we have to depend on the imports only to the extent of 30%. So it is a difficult challenge, it is a difficult goal to be met, but moving in the direction will always help. So that's it about the problems related to defence and internal security and the recommendations made by the 15th Finance Commission. Thank you.